particularly the young people of our community whom I fear are becoming a lost generation. And if it is not so, feel free to correct me. But here's the question directly I'd like to put to you. What does Al-Islam, you see I didn't say Islam, Al-Islam,
yes.
What does that have to offer to the black family, in particular relationship to the youth, the shabab, the young people, in order to bring them back from that brink of destruction? The floor is yours, brother. Bismillah, take as long as you like.
Assalamu alaikum, my name is Ismail and I'm the director of the Salam project. We do youth and community outreach in London and Manchester. We work around issues of gun and knife crime, extremism and radicalization, and we're independent. We're not funded by no government authority. Now, when it comes to issues of young people, majority of our young people, they're affected by what every young person is affected by. Materialism. They want to wear the latest clothes. They want equal opportunities. But the sad reality is there's not as much equal opportunities as there should be, and many of our young people are not getting enough resources as other communities. What it is, we need our elders to stop bickering and fighting, whether you're Sunni, whether you're Shia, whether you're Pan-Africanist, whether you're Sufi, whether you're Hebrew, whether you're a Nuwapian, whether you're a Rastafarian. We need all of our elders to come together and support our young people. It's easy for us to blame Theresa May. It's easy for us to blame Sadiq Khan. It's easy for us to blame Sajid Javid. But it's us as the elders, we need to look at ourselves and be uncles to these young people out on the streets and the roads. The prisons are packed up with our young people. Our young people are overrepresented in permanent school exclusion. Our people are overrepresented in the mental health system. What I believe it is are three things. Our young people need love. It might sound weak, it might sound petty. Our young people need love. Two, our young people need to understand their heritage. I'm talking from an African, Afro-Caribbean standpoint. Africans and Afro-Caribbean people are not aware of their history, their heritage, or their culture. Now, that's in a broad sense. Among African and Afro-Caribbean Muslims are not aware of their African and Afro-Caribbean Islamic history taught by our dear Sheikh and scholar here, DANJUMA, also Dr. Hakeem Quick, and many others, because many of us need to learn our heritage, our history, and know where we're coming from. Now, what we're doing now, we're doing a project because it's easy to moan about the situation. What we've set up now, we've set up something called Black Business for Black Youth, where we're getting the black community, whether they're Christian, whether they're Muslim, whether they're Hebrew, whether they're Pan-Africanist, as long as they're business owners, to give work experience to young people, whether they're permanently excluded from school, whether they're ex-offenders, whether they're university dropouts, or whether they're school leavers and they need work experience. Because we believe our young people need to have aspirations, and our people, it's good to mentor young people, but our young people need to see our elders being stockbrokers, being accountants, being doctors, being entrepreneurs. We're not just sports people and we're not just musicians. There's more to us than this. And this is an interfaith initiative, I say that word, and we need to stop the bickering aside. Our actions should speak louder than the words. It's easy for us to say Islam is the truth. It's easy for us to say Christianity is the truth. There's a time when the speaking has to stop and the actions have to go.
We have dead air, hold on. Now, here's a question I'd like to ask you. How do you respond to the lesser informed branch of our black family who, through no fault of their own, have been fed a narrative? There's a meta-narrative percolating throughout the community, especially down in the deep end, saying that Islam is an Arabian Trojan horse.
Yes.
That it is not only is it irrelevant to the black liberation struggle, it is actually toxic. How would you respond to that? And how can you make whatever you're gonna say now that is redemptive relevant to the youth?
Okay, yes. Among Muslims and within the Muslim community, there are people preaching a narrative that is very negative to black people, especially black Muslims. And sadly, many of our black Muslims have sucked into this hype and foolishness. My message to young black Muslims is to read. Read your history. Read Dr. Ivan van Sertima, African Presence in Early Europe, where he talks about the history of the Moors. Read The Glory of the Moors by Dr. Ivan van Sertima. Read the book by David McRitchie, Ancient and Modern Britons, where he goes into the history of the Moors, who were Muslim majority, who used to rule the UK, Europe, and many of us need to know our heritage, our history, and our culture. When we're talking to the mainstream Muslim community, when it comes to black Muslims, they just mention Bilal and mention Malcolm X. But Africa has a rich Islamic history. The Caribbean have a rich Islamic history. For example, many people are not aware the Maroons were a Muslim empire in the Caribbean. Now also in India, in the Indian subcontinent, there were an African tribe called the Sidis. Now they were from East Africa and they sailed to India 700 years ago and they ruled many parts of the Indian subcontinent and they were African Muslims. I am saying to my younger African Muslims, know your heritage, know your history. Now to make it relative to what's happening today, there's been many academic research done by people who are academic researchers on gun and knife crime, extremism, radicalization, and permanent youth unemployment. And what they say is, and even mental health, they say part of the problem is, yes, social problems, but it's a lack of knowledge of self. So to my brothers who are young, learn your history. You can learn your history. That doesn't mean you have to hate anyone. Learn your history and love yourself. Many of these things that are happening to our community is because we don't love ourselves, and we need to love ourselves. It all starts and ends with love.
How do you respond to people who say that Islam is only a phase, a hiccup in African history, that true self-love involves deeper roots, by which they mean you have to go to the pre-Abrahamic epoch in African history to really tap into that self-love? People who believe in chematology,
yes,
almost as a religion,
yes,
even though it's basically a bit of archaeology and,
yes,
and philosophy, yes, it's what we do with our dualism and our attitude. We take everything and turn it into a religion.
Yes.
And either you're right or you're wrong. Yes. I talked about this last week. But how do you, let me get back to the central question I just asked you. Yes. How do you deal with detractors who say, well, it is not sufficient to be an Abrahamist, a Muslim, a Hebrew, or a Rastafarian. You've got to go back further beyond the Quran, beyond the Bible, to Africa's primordial religions. How would you respond to that?
So first of all, we as Muslims, and according to the African Islamic scholars that I follow, we respect the pharaoh called Akhenaten, Imhotep IV. Okay, he taught a monotheistic Egyptology, whereby he encouraged people to worship one God and get rid of idol worship. So we believe in this. So we believe that the truth of the divine truth has always been there. But with Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the name was given Islam, which means submission and surrender to God in peace. So we believe, once someone believes in God, they're our brothers. So whatever you want to call it, you could call it that. But what I see, our brothers, because they follow a tradition that is in a small village in Africa, they think they're more African than others. As someone who's traveled around Africa, like you as well, Islam is rampant in Africa. I've been to Nigeria, Cameroon, Ghana, I've been to Sudan, North and South, and Islam is intrinsic part of Africa.
Now, what you seem to be saying is supported by a professor of no less distinction than Professor Christopher Ehret.
Yes.
Professor who says Africa is sufficiently vast and has a sufficiently wide heterogeneity of people, a diversity of people, and cosmologies. Therefore, among the Nilo-Saharan people, among the Cushitic people, they never understood the idea of God in the way, say, the Yoruba did, yeah, or the Dogon did, or perhaps the Dahomey, the people who practice voodoo did. There are certain parts of Africa where they always worship a single God, yeah, and on top of that, never represented him. Yes. Are we then, brother Ismail, to say they are less African than people who put statues up and pray to the ancestors and offer libations to the ancestors?
No.
Are they less African?
No. I believe personally, one of the reasons why the black community are suffering is because we like to fight each other. Yes, you could be a Hebrew. You're a Hebrew. I'm just saying, giving an example. Then you're a Hebrew, you're a Nawapian, you're a Rastafarian, you're a Christian, I'm a Muslim. Why can't we just work together? Our young people are dying. Our people are packing up the mental institutions. Our people are packing up the prisons. Our people are being permanently excluded from school. And we could argue all day, but our young people are suffering. So there's going to be a time, whether we like it or not, where we're going to say, you know what, I don't agree with you on this, but we're going to work together. I don't agree with you on that, but we're going to work together. I don't agree with you, but we're going to work together. Because if we don't start thinking like this, we're destroyed.
I'd just like to say, for those who have only just arrived, Brother Ismail here is the coordinator of the Salam project. His particular forte, his area of specialization is working with the youth, especially urban inner city youth, people who have been disconnected from the society, people who feel themselves underrepresented, voices that are lesser heard. He gives a voice and a platform to such people, and as a brother Muslim to myself, he is here, like me, echoing the sentiment that Islam has always been fundamental to black struggle, and Islam, as long as there are brothers like this young brother whom I've known since he was a child in Kilburn, Islam will always be fundamental, integral and central to all human struggle, not least the black struggle. And as you go on to say something about the new generation, brother, go ahead, say something else. Add to that.
So I'm saying this as an appeal. We're doing a project called Black Business for the Youth. I'm calling all black business owners. I don't care if you're Hebrew, I don't care if you're Muslim, I don't care if you're Christian, I don't care if you're Pan-Africanist, I don't care if you're a Yoruba worshipper, I don't care if you're non-religious. As long as you're a business owner, if you've got a business where you could give a young person an opportunity to help build their confidence, to help to raise their awareness, to help widen their horizons, to help to stay them away from trouble, contact me, 07538 740-319. If you're here to fight, you're
Can you repeat that, please?
07538 740-319. I'd like to shout out Save Our Boys, Nation Builders.
Brother Rakim? Save Our Boys, Brother Rakim, yes? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Nation Builders. Also Neats Plug. Creative Education. Yes. Creative Education Solutions Youth Charities. And these are black people from different parts of the community who have come together to support this project. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for doers, no talkers.
Jazakallah khair, brother. Look, I think what I've heard here just now is in the tradition of when our venerable elder, Brother Khaja, used to speak just standing across here.
Yeah.
And Brother Khaja, who was your mentor, who was at the meeting 2 weeks ago, who came in the tradition of Brother Muraduddin, who used to speak just across there. And now we have you here as, and myself, kind of like the bridge between the two generations. And it's a good thing for Muslims to be seen, to be relevant once again. For some reason, like I said, and for some time, we abandoned this platform because we did not want. Remember, there was a period in Islam when somebody approached the Prophet, and the Prophet was praying, and they said to the Prophet, behind you there are munafiqeen, there are hypocrites. Why don't you dispatch them? The Prophet ﷺ said, you want me to give the impression that the Prophet kills his own people? I don't know their hearts. You don't know their hearts. Maybe if I treat them by example, they will stop being munafiqeen and become proper Muslims. So I think what you're trying to say with your all-inclusive approach is that the best way to teach Islam is to practice it.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing from you.
That's what I'm saying.
That's the Islam for me.
That's it. That's Islam, I know.
The Islam for me.
Yes.
Yeah? And I don't know if the other brothers here would like to chime in. They know you.
The next generation coming up.
It's still rolling.
Okay, I'll just jump